what I wanted to do was I wanted to put a Wii onto my ALU, but I didn't want to have the cable draping out of the front of the system. So I found a way to do such a thing, and it's pretty cool. Hopefully, you guys don't mess up your system trying this, but if you do, I had nothing to do with that. Okay, I'm not responsible, and don't try to sue me or anything saying I told you to. This is something that I did personally. I thought it's cool. I thought I thought the community would like to see it, like to experiment with it, take it further, hopefully. But as we all know, the biggest downfall is your HDMI is stuck on the front of your unit, and you gotta do a 90-degree HDMI or route it out, drill a hole in your case. It's just not really feasible. ALU, if you're listening, a couple things you guys really need to do. One of which is you need to put a hinged front door on the bottom of this so people can get in there and mod these things a little easier. It's also a lot of wasted space. Makes perfect sense. Like, why wouldn't you do that? The second thing is you gotta put HDMIs, USBs, stuff like that inside the caps, because people love to mod these. They're fun to mod, and you guys gave us the options kind of to do that, but it's definitely lacking in your placement. You can leave them up there. It's fine to have it in case you for whatever reason wanted to, but it's the first thing my kids want to grab is, hey, what is this? What is that? And then next thing you know, your machine's broken, right? And it just doesn't look good. So I'm going to walk through step by step pretty much of what I got going on. I'm going to show you how it works, and then I'll show you how I did it. Okay. So I got my Wii right here, so I can turn it on. Okay, as you see, the Wii comes on, and then what I actually have to do, because I have a remote for this too, is I'll turn on my splitter. Okay, it's on. So as you can see, it's found, it's solidly blue. It's found what it's looking for. And then if you look over here, notice that I don't even have an HDMI. Okay, so if I press this so, give it a second. There we go, there's my Wii. Alright, so show you that it all works. Sorry for the camera. Alright, so I've got my Wii, so I've got my direction pad. It's hard to do with one hand. Cycle my list. Alright, we'll just show you on whatever, doesn't really matter. Do the chicken one. For some reason it's not working. Alright, I'll go back to the home. Oh no, it's frozen. My Wii is frozen. Bear with me. Shitty Wii's. I'm gonna try that again. Turn it on. Maybe I just didn't like that game. A Dino Strike. There we go. I don't know what that was about.
It was supposed to be.
Hello? Can anyone hear me? Oh, thank God. I'm on a search and rescue mission looking for Dr. Buckland and his team. That storm last night wreaked havoc on my equipment, but I'm picking up the pieces now. Keep sharp, or you won't survive. I hope you know your way around a gun. There are old supply crates all over the island. Don't bother with the locks, just shoot them open.
If you're interested also in how I did this, I can go over that too on a different video. Just let me know in the description. These guns are actually hard to come by, and they're pretty expensive. The one that I have here, it actually, here, I'll shut that off. This one here actually was broken. It didn't actually work. The recoil worked, but the gun itself didn't work. So I repurposed it. So anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll go over how I did it, and then you guys can hopefully do it yourself and not break your machines. So boom, hit that. You're back to your arcade, you know, do whatever, play your, oh, my LEDs are off. You know, there, boom, playing arcade in style. First thing I had to do was I had to install the hinges, okay? It's a little dark right now, apologize for that. So what I did was, on this side, I've got my hinge. I'll leave a link in the description. And then on this side, I've got 1 and 2. These are push and then release, and they're magnetic, okay? So you can open this up. Quick note, what I should have done here was I should have obviously cut this up above. It doesn't look that great. It was a super quick rush job, and I just messed up. So if you do that, cut it up there. What I'm going to actually end up doing is I'm going to take plexiglass, and this whole thing will be see-through. So it's not going to matter for me. But for right now, I didn't have the money to go get the plexiglass. For, you know, it's expensive, and I just didn't have it. So I'll change that out eventually. But essentially what I got going on is inside here is my Wii. And yeah, it's dark right now, but I'll show you in a second, and it won't be. So basically you hit this power button, okay? It's gonna flash and then it'll come back, it'll come on. It's just the way the controller is. I don't know why it does that. All right, so there we go. All right, I've got 120 millimeter fans, 3 of them running off of a controller. They've got LEDs in them, and the way I was able to do that, I'll go through and explain to you. But basically down in here, you know, I had to add a power supply over here. Let me show you real quick too. So this comes with a remote, super easy to use. You can do your solid colors, you know, reds, whatever. You can do your auto. You can dim it down really, really low. I'm not going to waste the time showing you, but pretty fancy. So I use the white all the time just to be working in here because, you know, it lights it up in there, and it gets great airflow. And the way that I got this set up is that this fan's pulling in, this fan's pulling in, and that fan's blowing out. So I've got dust filters on the outsides of these, and I've got on order just one of those, you know, metal grady looking grill covers that'll go on that. What I had to do was I had to add a power supply here. This is a 4-square box with a raised 2-gang duplex cover, and it's just got 2 duplex outlets in it. So I got 4 outlets altogether, and I'll go through on the on the back side what that is right now. So for the power, so basically what I did here was I took that 4-square box that's inside. I knocked, this is a 3/4 knockout for this. It's a strain relief for the power cord so it can't get pulled out. I mounted the box in there, I leveled it, I had knocked out that KO, I traced it out, I drilled this hole. I put this strain relief in there, and I had this hole for the fan. I didn't have the fan in there yet. I was able to stick my hand in there and hold the box while putting the connector or the lock nut on, and that held the box there. I went inside, I leveled it out, I traced my holes here, I drilled my holes for my rivets. These are 1/4-inch rivets. They came with a Harbor Freight cheap rivet gun that works really, really well. I'll leave in the description, I'll leave a link. I put those in, they fit perfectly in the hole with no wobble. And then this connector was holding that in, inside. So I just slid the rivet in from this side, did it on the outside, boom, popped them all, made the outlet up. This is a heavy duty SO cord. It's just a 3-wire, and then I wired up a cord in on that, so that powers the inside. Back to this, so what I got running here is I've got my 5-volt transformer, and that's running my splitter for my HDMI. That's powering anything I want. It's a 2 output, 3 input. So what that means is I can put 3 different devices into it, and I can select to go out to one or the other outputs, or I can split them. So say people were playing Wii, and you're using the light guns and you're in front of it and you got other people waiting to play and they want to watch. Well, I could put a TV up on the wall and I could output to both of them, and people could at least watch what they're doing. I've got other arcades in here, so it doesn't really matter. People are probably going to play something else, but the option's kind of nice. So that's the splitter. This wire right here, it's kind of hard to see, but put this in there. Okay, so this wire right here goes up and goes into the actual control deck, and we'll go over that in a minute. So this is that transformer for the splitter. This is a transformer for my recoil light gun, and this is the 3-volt transformer. It's a universal. I could do what I want there. Don't stick your fingers in the fan. It's set to 3 volts because that's what the remote, the Wii remote actually works off of. So I've got those going up here, right? And they're going over and they're plugging in right here, and then it goes out to a strain relief on the back side, which if you do this, you've got to make a bigger hole on the inside but not punch all the way through, and then a smaller hole in the middle because these threads aren't going to be long enough to get through. So that's the low volt for the light gun. Then what I've got going on is inside this this wire wrap here goes up the back. I've got the 5-volt and the 12-volt, and that goes up top up here, and I'll show you what I did there in a second. I've got my power supply for my Wii just tucked up and out of the way. And then and eventually what I'll do is I'll get the stickies that can go here and make this look a lot nicer. And then this bar is going to actually be relocated. I got a 3D printer, like I said, and I'm going to print up a bracket for it so that it's not just stuck on the front of the case, and it's going to go above the screen, not below it. But that's all got to be done after I get the printer. So here is the actual controller for the fans, and the way that this works is it's got a 12-volt DC for the fan power, and it's got a 5-volt DC for the LEDs. I didn't want to have to run stuff outside, run a separate switch or whatever, so I figured out a way that I can power this all with the unit itself, with the power coming from the unit itself, and I'll go over that here in a second too. All right, so what we've got going on here is we'll go over the fan first. So for the fan, I needed the 12 volt and I needed the 5 volt. Okay, so this right here is an old switch or a splitter for, it came with the game Rock Band, right? An old USB 2.0 4-port splitter. I plugged that into here. I unplugged the one that was in there that goes to the control deck. The control deck is now plugged in here. This is plugged in for the actual lights for the fans. Okay, so I'm getting my 5 volt there. It's all brought up inside this one wire here, or it's not a wire, but it's I always forget the name of it. Anyways, this one was just a 1/4 inch. I don't know why I can't think of the name of it, but it goes on the outside, right? You can put wires in there, it makes it look nice, and it's like a wire loom or I don't know. So that comes out here. I just hot glued it so it wouldn't get pulled down. Goes over and that plugs in. The 12 volt for the fan motors is right here. I just brought up a black and a red wire. Sorry, black and a red wire. And when I did the GRS mod for this cabinet, it came, I don't know if it was the GRS buttons or if it was the actual 4 to 8 way switcher. It came with this, like, all these wires I didn't need for if you happen to have this type of system or whatever. You can, you know, they were nice enough to provide that stuff. Well, I didn't need it, so I repurposed it here. I had a 2-prong female, and this was the part of the converter or whatever. I cut the other side off, and I think it was actually a 2-prong on that side or something, but I cut it off, and then I found out of that same kit another one that had just the 2 prongs, and I spliced them together. I actually soldered them together, did individual heat shrinks on them, and then this right here was what was plugged into that plug. This is 12 volts, and that's actually going, I don't know if I can get the angle, it's going to this strip light up here, which is for illuminating your marquee. So when I hit that power button is going to turn on the light for the marquee, right, which is here, which is now powering also the 12 volt motor for my fans. Then the keyboard, right, or the control deck, that gets power off this control board, which is off this now splitter, which is now powering the lights down there. So the lights come on too. When you shut the power off to the whole system, both of those shut down also. What this fan was doing originally was the motor, the fan was still running, but the lights would shut off, like with the remote, right? If you gave it 12 volts and everything like that, the remote only powers the lighting. It does nothing with the fan speed, its set speed. It just turns the lights on and off, or color changing or whatever. So like, why would you want to have your fans running all the time, right, if you gave it 12 volt power? So doing this works really, really well. And the nice thing about it is I can unplug this connector, unplug that, and set it back factory. Or I can, eventually I'll upgrade to the LCD marquee, and then this light will go away, and I'll plug into the controller some LED strips, and I think I'll run them up on the back here, maybe on this or something like that. It'll run up, and then it'll illuminate the back wall and be controlled with the same controller that controls the fan lighting. So it's just a very convenient. I've got this dust cover right here, and it's a magnetic, right? So you can just peel it on and off. And what I did was, the one I bought came with 6 of these, and I'm only using 2. So what I did was I peeled off this strip on the other ones that I wasn't using, and I stuck them onto this, flipped it around so the sticky side was out, stuck it onto this cover right here for a template, and then I mocked it up and then pushed it against here, and I pushed it and had it re-adhere. When you're doing that, and you go to put that on there. If you guys have ever played with magnets, you know sometimes they have reverse, one will push away, one will pull toward, right? So sometimes you'll go to put it on there and it'll side shift a little bit. What you want to do is take that, rotate it, and put it on the opposite side, because one of these is going to have like, it's going to go fully across, and this one will go fully across, and then these two right here will go in between those. So you have like two straight pieces that just go in between, and then you have one that actually contours with the curve of the actual cover. So if it's going and pushing off to the side, well, if you go to put it here, it's going to push off to the side and look like shit. So you want to take that and rotate it to the other side, and keep fiddling with it, and you'll get it. You'll understand what I'm talking about once you mess with it. But that will actually come out perfect, just like that. And then you could take this off, you could blow it out, you could put it back, and no problem. Like I said here, I'm gonna do the grill cover. This hole came out shitty. I didn't have a 4.5 inch, I think it is, for these fans. So originally I was going to do 80 millimeter fans. I had them laying around, and then I saw how cheap these were on eBay, and they could do color changing, and I was like, oh, that's better than one color. So I already had the holes, so I had to trace out what, you know, I thought was the size, and then take a jigsaw and go around, and it, you know, as you can see, it's not perfect, but it got the job done, and you can't even tell on the sides. It's just this back one that really kind of doesn't look that great. So if you look back in here, you can see this glue mess right there. That's actually my HDMI cable, and I'll show you some pictures of all of that in a second here. What that's doing is I took the HDMI port on the inside, and you have to unsolder 3 points that are connecting that HDMI to the actual board. Once you you can buy, they have like solder suckers, right? You heat it up and it sucks the solder out. They have other stuff you could put on there onto it, and then you heat it up with the soldering iron, excuse me, and it'll actually kind of absorb the solder. Whatever you choose to do, just make sure that you're not overheating the board for a long period of time. You know, you don't want to fry things or melt things or something like that. The board will get hot if you keep pushing the iron onto it. So essentially what I did was I got as much of the solder off as I could. Then I took a little flathead screwdriver and I put it in between the board and the actual HDMI itself. And I worked from one side to the other, and I basically put it in, and I melted the solder, and I pried a little bit very gently on the board and the actual HDMI port. And you could see that little piece that goes through the board that was soldered start kind of retracting into the board. I then moved to the middle, heated up the middle one, pried that one back a little bit. Then I moved to the furthest one. I just worked it back and forth until the center one comes out all of the way. Once the center one's out all the way, you can still kind of heat up the other ones and pry it some, but you don't really want those to come out 100%. You can see in the picture they're still connected to the board, and those are basically what holds that port into the board. From that point, I took an HDMI cable and I pulled the cover piece off, and I took a Dremel and I ground down as much of that to make it as a low of a profile as I possibly could. Because you don't have much room in there. Behind where the HDMI used to plug in on the front of the arcade, if that's like a flat plane, okay, it just goes flat, it basically drops down behind that, and that's what the control board bolts up into. When you don't have the HDMI that you now bent backwards down enough, it will hit that, and you won't actually be able to screw this up. So your USB ports will then be pushed down because you're not able to get it up high enough. So it's essential that you find as low of a profile HDMI as you can. You grind it down as much as you can to make it as low of a profile. And then what I did was I pushed a heat shrink over it, and you can see this in the pictures. I pushed a heat shrink over just so that there was no chance of it shorting on the heatsink for the, I'm assuming, processor for the control board, because it is just kind of sitting right against or over it. I then did a slight loop on the inside with the HDMI cable, so that it wasn't pulling tension on that connection, right? And then I hot glued it here, which is what you see in the back, the hot glue mess, so that it couldn't get pulled out. It's like a strain relief. And the first time I did this, I actually had to unglue. I had to take the glue back off, because I didn't have it pushed down far enough. And I had a heck of a time trying to get that glue off. So it definitely, you know, it sticks on there if you glue it well enough. You can see over here, there's some glue there. So you want to be very careful when you're removing all of these connectors in here. They all came out pretty easy, except for that guy. That guy would not come out. I tried to hold it here with my finger, you know, closer to it. I'm like scared to even touch this stupid thing because I don't want it to break. And I started, so I'm like pulling on. I'm like, I just gotta come on. I tried to depress the top. Like, I mean, it just wouldn't unlatch. Well, then I heard this sound that nobody ever wants to hear, and it was like some plastic, grumbly, horrific sound. And I was like, I just broke this thing. So I got it all out. I finally got it out. I took it inside. I looked at it, and what happened is you have the two, right? It's like two prongs that go soldered into the board, and then it comes up like a 90 degree, and they come out. Okay, there's like a plastic housing that just sits over that. Well, the plastic housing started pulling off of those prongs, so now it's loose in the prongs. The contacts on the board were fine. It was this plastic housing that actually locks this connector into it. So I tried to push it back. It wouldn't go back, of course. So I got this whole thing together. I tested it. Everything worked. And then you know, I'm in here and I'm like I was doing the video, and I touched it, and the screen went out. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So luckily enough, it was a matter of shutting the system off, turning it back on, and holding that and going, okay, it's good, and then gluing it. I haven't had a problem with it since. I'm scared to touch it, honestly. But what that is that's the power, from what I can tell, that's the power that powers up your monitor, right? So you've got all of your signal wiring and everything here, and then those are your lighting power, I guess, for your board there. So be very, very careful when you're doing this. To remove this, there's 1 screw, 2 screw, and 3 screws over there. Sorry if you get the bad angle here. Go on this side. All right, so 1 screw, 2, 3, and on the underside that goes into this the back side of this, okay, there's a screw that's literally in line with this port. And there's another one over here, and then another one over here. You got to unscrew all of those, and this whole black housing will come down, and you can kind of swivel it out this way. Now you still have this right here, which is a ground to your actual like monitor, okay, and then you have this ground over here, this is for the bracket of your monitor, and that's, I don't know, for something for your monitor. There's a screw that's in the bottom. You got to unloosen that screw and just get those wires off, and I just kind of set all the hardware, the screws and everything like that over here. Once you do that, you can take this out. There's a couple screws that separate this plastic, and then you'll kind of continue with the mod from there. Just go back if you want to do this. Look at the pictures. Look at how I have it. In the center of those 3 on the HDMI port, those 3 that you got to unsolder from the board, the little tiny ones are actually the signal wires and everything like that go to the board. So as long as you don't rip those off, you know, you can theoretically pivot that whole HDMI back and forth, but you don't want to do it too much, because obviously it can loosen and it can break or whatever. So you kind of pivot it back as much as you know you think you need. You get your HDMI cable all ready. You kind of plug that in, you heat shrink it, and then you push it back to the heatsink as far as you can, you know, gently, and then take that hot glue and actually glue around that where you took it out of the board, so that it gives it some support, because you don't want that thing to be able to move around. It'll just eventually break off, and then you'll be completely screwed, and I'm sure voided your warranty, because you're not supposed to be getting in there. You know, they'll definitely not like that. So just be very, very, very careful. So there it is. There you have it. Also, I built these stands for them. They're like a 5-inch or so riser. I basically just looked at one that they were selling on eBay or whatever for like 80-90 bucks, which is pretty outrageous. And I had some old shelves around that I wasn't using anymore, and I just made them, and they're nothing fancy, but hey, they work. If you guys are interested, you know, they sell the shelving and stuff like that over at Home Depot. It's like 18 bucks for one that you can, you know, make all of this out of, and then on the inside is just some 2x4s that it's all bolted together. And if you guys are interested in that, I can kind of go over that too on a video at some point. But it you know, it's pretty easy, and if I ever did them again, I definitely would have different. I would do it a little bit different, but they still, you know, they work. There, you know, nobody really notices them. But yeah, so there we go. Lights all working, cabinet on, and then you're ready to go to bed, and it's all off. Easy peasy. Oh, can't forget to shut the HDMI switch off, which I don't really have to, but I like to. So like I said, eventually I'll change this out. I'll do the plexiglass, and then it'll look great. And I'll probably do that mod around the time that I get all of the 3D printing done. I'll make another video, and I'll just kind of, it'll be like an update video where you know, you can see the final project there. But I'm gonna leave it in the description a link for this hardware also. It actually just reminded me that I got some, I think these are 1032 1/2-inch black bolts, and the nuts with lock nuts for the nylon, not like built-in lock nut for the backside, so they don't kind of come loose. And then also this hardware here, and I use the same thing over here, so worked out good. I think they come in like packs of 4, so I use, you know, 2, 4, 6 there, and then the additional 2 here. So it worked out great. I had just enough to do both hinges. You probably don't need to have an upper and a lower. You could probably just have one in the center, but I don't know, it worked out pretty well. So alrighty, you guys enjoy, and let me know what you think. Suggestions, comments, helpful ideas, anything like that. Please let me know if you have any ideas on a gun that may work for a light gun. I've been looking at like all different types of stuff, from laser tag guns to airsoft guns. Anything that you guys have seen work or think may work, hit me up. That would be a huge help, and appreciate it for sure. So, all right, stay safe.